All right, good evening. This is the December 4th, 2019 Cottage Grove City Council meeting, which I'm calling to order. The first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, so please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, will the clerk please do the roll?
Councilmember Mills.
Here.
Councilmember Dennis.
Here.
Councilmember Thiede.
Here.
Councilmember Olson.
Here.
Mayor Bailey.
Here. All right, so next on our agenda is open forum. This is the opportunity for anybody that would like to speak on something that's not on tonight's agenda is welcome to do so. We did have a sign-up sheet. I do know we have one gentleman that's going to speak a little bit later in our agenda regarding the budgets. But we also have Mr. John Koyman, who signed up for who lives at 6749 Geneva Avenue South, and it's comments regarding the last council meeting. So if you want to just go on up there.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members, for giving me this chance to speak to you tonight. So I just wanted to comment on some of the talking points from the meeting. Councilmember Dennis, when I was talking about a city staff member making us an offer to pave our driveway free of charge, your response was, the issue with your driveway being paved, that was the school district that paved your driveway, not the city of Cottage Grove. I am surprised that as the property owner of your property, that you don't remember that was where that paving came from. Yet you try to throw the city under the bus. So I think we were talking about two different situations. I think what you were talking about occurred in November of 2017. And for that 2017 work, there was a 10-inch culvert pipe installed under our driveway long ago before we ever purchased the property. During the Oatman School holding pond construction, the Stantec staff member who oversaw the school project determined that that culvert pipe was starting to show its age. We were contacted to see if Stantec could replace that existing pipe with a concrete one. We agreed and they replaced the pipe. My interaction with the city of Cottage Grove was minimal. There was no meeting or paperwork to sign. The school district never paved our driveway, like you stated though. The school district's construction company returned this 25-foot section of our driveway to the same state it was before they started, gravel. So yes, I am aware that in this instance, the school district paid for this 10-inch sewer pipe replacement and returned our driveway to its current unpaved state. They did not pave our driveway though. The situation I was talking about at the last city council meeting, I described where a city staff member offered to pave our driveway, turn it from a gravel driveway into an asphalt driveway. That occurred in April of 2016. Just a little background on that, during 2013, the Washington County Watershed District created a project called the Clear Channel Project. They basically wanted to run very large storm sewer pipes from 65th to 70th Street and then empty those out into the ponds along Highway 61. As part of that project, they needed to get land easements through each property they wanted to run the pipes through. For our property, we were asked to grant easements through about 1 3/4 acres of property. The Watershed District was working with Cottage Grove City staff to facilitate the project. For our easement request, we chose to decline. As I stated in the last city council meeting, we were then approached in 2014 with the nuisance ravine letter from the city of Cottage Grove staff. This is where the city indicated they would no longer pursue anything legal against us as long as we signed our easement letter. I mentioned we hired an attorney and the matter disappeared. I also mentioned in the last city council meeting that a Cottage Grove city staff person called a meeting with me in April of 2016 to again try to get us to sign this clear channel easement. If we sign that easement agreement, our driveway would be paved. As I mentioned in the last meeting, city staff and city attorney have correspondence related to the 2014 ravine letter we received. I have an audio recording of the meeting with the city staff member from the 2016 meeting. These are facts, you can verify them if you so choose to. There is no gray area on this easement for driveway proposal. Here's a quote from a member of the Cottage Grove City staff at this 2016 meeting with me. If you are willing to deal with these easements, we could figure out how to get paving there meaning my driveway. Is it right for a city staff member to ever offer to use taxpayer dollars to pave a private citizen's driveway? As far as throwing people under the bus, I'm not doing that. I'm indicating that as a taxpayer and a 55016 resident, I want to hold city staff to the highest moral and ethical standards possible. I think 98 times out of 100, that is the case. In the two instances that I've given you, that are both factual and easily verified, that ethical behavior does not seem to be what occurred. So I guess for me, if I know something and eventually don't say anything, then I'm condoning that bad behavior and it may continue into the future. So I guess one question along those lines, if I thought a city staff member acted unethically, where would I go to have that looked into? Is it the state or county or what agency would I contact? And I'll stay here for the wrath of Councilmember Dennis.
I don't think there'll be any wrath by Councilmember Dennis. I don't think there needs to be anything. I mean, if you just clarified what you wanted,
Very good.
and that's fine. I think if, you know, I can't even direct you to who to talk to specifically. I would contact, if you're so inclined, you could probably talk to the State Attorney General. I mean, if that's something you would like to do.
Thanks for your time.
Okay? All right. So is there anybody else that wants to speak on something that's not on tonight's agenda in the audience? All right, seeing none, I will go ahead and close the open forum, and we'll move to number 5, which is adoption of the agenda.
Move the agenda.
We have a motion by Councilmember Thiede,
Second.
second by Councilmember Dennis. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 6 is presentations. We have none this evening. 7 is consent calendar. Is there any items that council would like to pull on consent? Councilmember Olson.
Jay, please.
Jay? Okay. Anything else? Okay. Councilmember Olson, Jay, which is the 2020 part-time fire pay plan.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and council members for allowing me an opportunity to pull this item and speak briefly on it. This is an item to approve a 3% COLA or cost of living increase for our part-time firefighters. And the reason that I pulled this item is simply because I wanted to ask a two-part question, being the new guy. The first part of my question is, when is the most recent time to today that city staff has been able to do a wage comparison between the city of Cottage Grove and like cities? I know that in the past, there were Stanton surveys that we utilized for that purpose, and with some regularity, there was, investigation of how we compare relative to peer communities with our pay, benefits, et cetera. I'm just wondering if that's part of this, or is that something that's happened in the recent past? And the second part of my question is that something that we should be looking at as we talk through 2020 and the 2021 budget?
I know maybe he's asking staff, but I actually wanted to interject a little bit on that, because I think prior to Councilmember Olson being on the council, we as a council did have a conversation about this, I think about a year ago. I'm looking, Joe, or, and what other than the firefighter pay situation, there was a discussion about doing a comprehensive study on salaries across the board. Matter of fact, if you take a look at the report that was provided to us regarding firefighter pay, we're definitely not the lowest, we're not the highest, though there's some, as I was speaking with our administrator, some variations of different things in there that you probably have to do a little deeper dive into each of those communities. But I would like, and we can talk maybe a little bit about this tonight during our workshop, which is about personnel policy discussions, to maybe bring that subject up, about looking at the opportunity to do a wage study in 2020. And I personally would like to see that. I don't know if the rest of the council has any thoughts. We can talk more later this evening about that, but I don't know if that's what you were looking for. It's been, Joe, do you remember the last time?
Well, typically, we look at it every year in, I guess, a broad overview. Council set the direction that our comparison group is cities with populations as determined by the Met Council of 25,000 to 60,000. And we usually look at that once a year, the League of Minnesota Cities has a salary study that they do, which replaced the Stanton study, but have I told other council members, it's self-reported by each city, so it's not comprehensive. So if a city decides that they don't want to participate for whatever reason, we don't get that data. And part-time fire is not part of that as well. We do keep spreadsheets that I try to keep up to date, but at the same time, as I mentioned, that they also are self-reported, so a lot of cities, for whatever reason, don't respond to that either. As it gets down to part-time pay, we also don't really look at some of the other benefits that other cities provide in terms of benefits beyond just a pension. So that's certainly something that we could look at.
I appreciate the insight from Mayor Bailey and also from you, Joe. Thank you very much. The reason that I asked the question and really brought it forward in the first place is simply because as we look at, ensuring that Cottage Grove is an employer of choice and that we are competitive with our peer communities of similar size and demographic mix, et cetera, there's a whole lot that goes into that bucket, and pay is just one of many items that go into that bucket. Benefits also go into that bucket. There's cultural elements, et cetera. And again, I haven't sat in this chair for a few years, so I just wanted to find out if that's something that we've recently looked at, or is that something that we should consider looking at in the future? Mayor, it sounds like perhaps you think that is something worth digging a little bit deeper into, which I would certainly support. And I appreciate the feedback, and we can talk more at the workshop if you'd like. Thank you.
Okay.
I think what I would ask council to do as we talk about the compensation study, if we go down that road, is to think about what size population that you want to use. If, as we're moving more in size, if we want to shift that up to more 30 to 65, 30 to 70, whatever council gives us direction on. But I would like council to think about that.
Just as a quick question on that comment though, Joe, will it make that big of a difference if you went 30 to 60 versus say 35 to 65?
It could.
Okay.
Typically, as you get higher with population, the salaries are higher too.
Right.
But also, it seemed like there's a lot between 20 and 25,000, and then between 60 and 65,000. So some may drop off, but some might come on too. And we can present all of them, and you guys can decide based on that too.
Perfect. All right. Any other comments, council? All right. So thank you, Councilmember Olson, on that. So seeing nothing else being pulled on consent, I'll look for, okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Olson to approve consent.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Mills. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So if you are here for anything on tonight's consent calendar, all of those items have been approved. 8 is approve disbursements. 8A is pay the bills.
Motion to pay the bills.
We have a motion by Councilmember Dennis,
Second.
second by Councilmember Thiede. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 9 is public hearings, there are none tonight. 10 is bid awards, there are none tonight. 11 is regular agenda. We have 2 items this evening. The first one is establish local lodging tax ordinance and Cottage Grove Convention and Visitors Bureau. And our EDA Director, Christine Costello, will take us through this. Welcome.
Good evening. Just to begin, as you're aware, part of the strategic plan for economic development is positioning us for growth. And one way that we do that for economic development is going to ICSC convention and the MinCar Expo here in the Twin Cities. And as part of that, we get to promote the community to hotel developers and national brand hotels. Through that, in discussions with them, we found out that they would ask us about, do you have a local lodging tax? And what we would say is, no, we don't. Oh, and we would find that would be an incentive for them to come. They see that as though then having that lodging tax brings those dollars to the community, promoting the community, that's visitors, that's people in the hotel rooms. So we began a process to develop a local lodging tax and a visitors bureau. So to provide some background information, we tried to begin this process in January of this year. The EDA held a workshop with the Chamber of Commerce to discuss Convention and Visitors Bureau, it would have been a separate arm, a nonprofit of the chamber. They presented at that time, the chamber proposed budget and so forth. So at the end of that workshop, it was decided that the chamber would establish a Visitors Bureau. Then in February of this year, the chamber submitted a letter of intent. And the purpose of that is to facilitate the project in terms of bringing forward a Visitors Bureau. So it required things such as social media, attending local events, promoting the community, brochures, and so forth. The next step was in March of 2019, and it was the process of creating bylaws and developing a board of directors for the Bureau. That board of directors at that time consisted of the chamber executive director, 2 lodging establishments, 1 restaurant, a local business, and 1 city representative. That board of directors then would create a marketing plan for the Bureau, and that marketing plan would serve as kind of the guiding document for the Visitors Bureau in terms of what would we promote, and then using that document, what would be our measures of success. In June, that bureau established a nonprofit organization through the IRS, so they became a 501c6, a nonprofit. Then in October, we received a draft marketing plan from them, and in reviewing it, staff felt it really lacked the substance of what council would want to see in the document. Within that month, the chamber then also saw a new executive director for the chamber. So they had a lot of changes going on within that month. We met then in November with the executive chamber board members to discuss the marketing plan and their changes in their staff. And we decided, the city staff would be willing to help, but we really wanted that board of directors that the Bureau had established at that time to really take a part in the marketing plan. Towards the end of the month, we just weren't seeing that. So city staff met with some of the executive members of the chamber, and it was felt that the Bureau really couldn't take, or the chamber could not take on the Bureau at this time. So we felt it was important to bring it kind of into our house in terms of the city. So in 1983, state statute gives cities the authorization to impose a local sales tax by ordinance of up to 3% on gross receipts from lodging. Of that, 95% of the proceeds must go to fund a bureau whose purpose is to market and promote the city. The chamber had begun those steps through the LOI but did not complete it. And per the letter of intent, the city is responsible for reimbursing the chamber for their initial startup cost and their dissolution costs. And that totals the $12,814. Once the ordinance becomes enacted, and that's part of tonight's request, we can begin collecting those proceeds and then begin the reimbursement process to the chamber. Before you is an analysis that was done by Ellers and Associates, our financial advisor, kind of based on the number of rooms we have for our 2 hotels in the community, an average daily rate, estimated occupancy, and then you can see highlighted the total estimated annual lodging tax would be $69,328. Then of those funds, we would be looked to allocating them in 3 areas. One would be reimbursing the chamber, admin cost of 5% for establishing the bureau on our end, and then the rest of the money would be used for that intended purpose of marketing and promoting the city. So to kind of further break this down, you can see highlighted the $65,862 is the 95% Visitors Bureau money minus the 5% administrative costs. And then that shows the monthly amount broken down. Further down, it shows the $12,814 that's owed to the chamber per the letter of intent. We've requested as staff that be paid back to the chamber quarterly. So we would look at the little over $1,600 paid back to them over 2 years. So if you take the monthly amount of the proposed Visitor Bureau activities of the $5,489 minus that monthly chamber amount, we'd have a little less than $5,000 each month for that Visitor Bureau operations, for that marketing and promoting of the community. So with the proposed ordinance, it will allow the city to establish this local lodging tax and collecting that 3%. And again, that 95% of those proceeds can go towards those activities of promoting the community and developing social media and so forth. Then one of the other items tonight is the establishment of a new visitors bureau. So it would be a contract between the city and EDA. We would look for this new visitors bureau to become an arm of the EDA. And it would outline the purpose and establishment of the bureau and a board of directors. And we're proposing a new outline of a board of directors. It'd be one person from one of the major hotel in the city, 3 city representatives that the council would appoint or choose, one person nominated from the chamber, and then 2 people from the business community. Then the next step would be for that group to work on a marketing plan, taking some elements of that existing plan, but really refining it and developing what are those core issues that we want to focus on, and then what are those elements that will determine the success to make sure we kind of have that track record that we're promoting the community. So with that, there are 4 items before you tonight, and I can take any questions.
Okay. Yeah, we'll start with Councilmember Thiede.
So where do the Visitors Bureau reside most of the time?
Mayor and Councilmember Thiede, fellow council members, it varies over communities. Sometimes they are an arm of the chamber, a nonprofit of the chamber, as we had attempted. For example, that's a way kind of Hastings works. Stillwater, for example, hires a person privately to do all their marketing and is a member of a board. Marshall, Minnesota, it's under the city's arm, and they run the board. So it kind of varies across the board in terms of how they're operated. So this is not unlike other communities.
So we're going to have some certain costs, probably above and beyond, to kind of support this Visitors Bureau. Yet it is not just for Cottage Grove, it's for Cottage Grove and St. Paul Park and Newport.
No.
We would look for this Visitors Bureau just to be Cottage Grove.
Yeah,
Even though the
so-
chamber is Cottage Grove Area Chamber of Commerce, since it's coming under the city of Cottage Grove, we would just, as long as it's kind of in our house, look for it just to be Cottage Grove.
So then you'd look at St. Paul Park or Newport to establish their own fees and taxes and so forth, if they so chose.
If they so chose, they could establish their own, but I think right now this kind of would help, as us being the largest community, kind of building and establishing this. And then say down the line, it becomes successful, does the chamber become stronger that they could take it on? Does it go back to the chamber? And at that time, are other communities added? So it could be kind of a stepped process.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions for staff at this point? So it's been kind of a roller coaster, because initially our goal has been to not be involved in it, but at the moment, at least, at the state of the chamber and how they're managing, trying to get their pieces together, if you will. This is, I think, our opportunity to kind of get the ball rolling in this case and get the group together. Have we identified members for this group, or are you waiting now until after tonight?
After tonight.
Okay, all right. Sounds good. So if there's no other questions for council, we have 4 separate motions that need to be made. So I'll look for somebody to start us off. Councilmember Dennis.
Mayor, I'll make motion for item 1 to terminate the letter of intent dated January 6th, 2019 between the Cottage Grove Area Chamber of Commerce and the City of Cottage Grove.
All right, so I have a motion by Councilmember Dennis,
I'll second.
second by Councilmember Mills. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll look for number 2.
Mayor, I'll make that motion to pass ordinance number 1017 to approve and enact Title I, Chapter 10, Section 7, regarding the establishment of a local lodging tax.
All right. Second. So I have a motion by Councilmember Mills, second by Councilmember Thiede. Any discussion on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number
I will
three.
move to adopt Resolution 2019-134, establishing the Cottage Grove Area Convention and Visitors Bureau.
All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Thiede,
Second.
second by Councilmember Olson. Any further discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And the final one, Mr. Olson?
Mayor, I will move that we approve the agreement between the City of Cottage Grove and the Cottage Grove Area Convention and Visitors Bureau.
All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Olson.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Dennis. Any further discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're on our way. All right, next under regular agenda is B is the 2020 property tax levy, the 2019 revised budget, and the 2020 budget. Robin, you're back.
I'm back. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This is the opportunity this evening for us to present the final 2020 budget and property tax levy. Back in earlier days, say 10, 15 years ago, we did something called Truth in Taxation. And it was a public hearing, and it was required. That is no longer the case. What we do here is we present the budget and levy, and we have an opportunity for members of the public to come and comment on it, although it is not a public hearing. I will do a presentation, and then I'm assured that you'll want to hear comments from the community if there are people here to speak on this. As I said, we were here on September 4th this year and adopted a preliminary levy. That preliminary levy has not changed since adoption on September 4th. As you'll recall, the levy can go down, but it cannot go up above what is adopted on the preliminary levy. The property tax levy for 2020 is $16,914,400. That levy is 7.8 or 7.77 if you want to be technical. That is higher than 2019. The primary responsibility or the primary cause of that being higher is required debt levies that we have to levy according to agreements with our municipal bonds that have been issued over time. These include the Central Fire Station, the ice arena, refrigeration system, Ravine Parkway, and a number of other pavement management projects. Although we were able to adjust some of those levies because of monies that are in the coffers from special assessments and other sources of revenue, we still are required to levy a certain amount each year for the debt, and that is the primary cause of the increase to the 2020 levy. Our tax base, thankfully, continues to grow at a very robust pace. In 2020, we estimate that our total tax capacity in millions of dollars is $36.8 million. That is an increase of over 9% over 2019. And over the last 6 years, the increase in our tax capacity rate or our tax base has been over 35%, which is, as I said, very robust and does have a significantly moderating influence on the actual tax rate and the increase in taxes because of the increased levy. This is a levy per capita comparison from last year's adopted levy to the 2020 proposed levy. These numbers came from the county, and the levy per capita is just another indication of how we compare to our fellow Washington County cities. These numbers are only those cities and townships that levied over $1 million in Washington County. And as you can see, we're towards the bottom of the pack on levy per capita at $452.97 per capita. our neighbors to the north, Woodbury, are at $531.09 per capita, although they have a lot more per capita than we do, per people. Oak Park Heights is at the highest levy per capita. That would be due to the large quantity of exempt property that they have in Oak Park Heights. And what they levy has to pay, or I should say, pays for more, and there are less properties to go against. The average increase for all the cities in the county for 2020 is 7.7, and we're right there. We're at 7.77. So comparatively, we are right in the thick of things. Now, Councilmember Thiede always asks, well, what does that mean to us? What does that mean to our homeowners? And here you have the 3 properties that we continue to follow and our average or median value property. 2 things I wanted to mention. We always talk about market value, and the market value change is important, but what we don't always mention is the fact that for properties with market values of up to $400,000, there's what's known as the homestead exemption. And that is for those properties up to $400,000, they get a kind of a circuit breaker where a certain valuation is reduced if they are a homesteaded property. As the property value, market value goes up to $400,000, the exemption gets smaller and smaller. So for example, on our average median value property, we show an indicated market value change of 5%. But in fact, if you factor in the homestead exemption, it turns that value, that taxable value increase, to 6.3%. So it's somewhat, I won't say misleading, but it's somewhat different than what actually happens. And this is part of the reason that you may see when you get your truth in taxation notice, at the top it shows your market values and then it shows your homestead exemptions. And the homestead exemption then impacts the taxable property value, and that will impact your actual city tax and county tax and school district and so forth. The market value is a really good indicator, but up to $400,000 properties, we need to take into consideration what that homestead exemption does. And because the closer you get to $400,000, the less and less that gets to be. If the property value, if the market value changes, it can have a significant impact on the actual taxes that are applicable to that property. I would also note that out of 10,222 residential properties in the city of Cottage Grove for 2020, 9,543 of them, or 94% of them, saw an increase in market value for 2020. That's a lot. Within that increase in value, fully 51% are in the 0 to 2.5% range. So over half of the properties that increased in value only increased between 0 and 2.5%. So that's a good thing. I mean, we all want our properties to increase in value. It's better when we sell our property then. So, as you can see, the range of change in the city tax is anywhere from 3% at property C all the way up to 4.6% in property A. Overall, the county believes that if you look at the average property across the county, the average property across the county saw a $20 tax increase on their tax. So if you look at your truth in taxation statement, the increase between 19 and 20 in your county taxes should be somewhere around $20 per year. Or, yeah, at least that's what they said in their presentation. Talking about the budget for 2020, we did some things in 2020 with regard to personnel. According to the organizational study that was done, and the council approved preliminarily, including those in our 2020 budget, and we've fleshed those out in the final budget as well. We always say we're in the personnel business, because we are. Fully 71% of our budget is salaries and benefits for 2020. We towed the line on supplies and services. Supplies, you'll recall, slightly decreased for 2020, where contractual services actually only increased about 1%. Our capital outlay significantly was reduced from our transfer out in 2019. We originally went down from $500,000 to $200,000, and then after the last council workshop, we adjusted for the purchase of squad and body cameras in 2020, and we postponed about $75,000 worth of radios to 2021. Again, 78% of our revenue comes from property taxes. We did slightly increase the license and permitting area because we have seen such a strong market in the city of Cottage Grove, and our licenses and permits have been up, and so we have adjusted them accordingly. The total revenues and expenses for 2020 for the general fund budget are $18,266,500. That is a 3.8% increase over 2019, and you'll recall that our salaries on all of our contracts that have been approved at 3%. So 0.8% is the rest of it. The general fund by department, here's where it actually reflects some of those organizational changes that we talked about. You'll notice that Public Works went from 19% to 20%. That's shifting engineering back over to Public Works. Community Development dropped from 11% to 7%, and that is by moving engineering and City Hall out of Community Development, engineering to Public Works, and City Hall to general government, which grew from 10% to 13%. I would also tell you that there's this election thing in 2020, and it costs us a few dollars in the city's clerk's office to actually run those elections. So that has seen an increase for 2020. Again, public safety, that's our big guy. Police and fire take a large quantity of our budget. And in doing so, they keep us safe and secure, and we appreciate that. What do our city taxes pay for? So you live in an average median price home, and the average median price home this year is $253,000. And the annual taxes on that property for the city is about $930. That equates to approximately $77.58 a month. And this is what that $77.58 pays for. $25.89 goes to pay for police, while the fire service gets $4.60. And this is on a monthly basis. Debt gets paid by $12.14. Parks and Rec gets $7.14. Public Works gets the same amount as general government. I don't know how that one worked out, but it does. $12.97. And then the capital equipment's $1.30, and the EDA gets 57 cents a month to do economic development. That breaks out into the percentages that are in the graph on the right. And again, the police department gets the majority of the cash. Utility rates for 2020, we've discussed this as well. We are not going to see an increase in water rates in 2020. There will be a 1% increase in the sewer rate. These two are consistent with our water and sewer rate study that was completed in 2017. You will probably see our rates increase by about 1% per year in the next 3 to 5 years in accordance with that study. And the amount of properties and businesses in the city will drive the revenues far more than the percentage increases in rates will. Stormwater fees will increase from $5.25 per month to $5.50 per month. And streetlight fees will increase from $4.20 to $4.40. And both of those are included in a long-term plan to improve both the stormwater utility and the streetlight utility because of ongoing maintenance costs that are incurred. One final thing, if your property taxes are too much, there are opportunities for tax relief. These property tax relief programs are the homestead credit refund and the renter's refund, and then the special property tax refund, which if your property taxes go up too much, they're over a certain percentage, you are allowed to file for a special property tax refund. These tax relief programs are available. More information on them is available at the State Revenue Department, which is www.revenue.state.mn.us, or the Property Tax Division, Tax Refund Division of the Department of Revenue, and the phone number is on the screen. This evening, after you take comment on the budget, I would ask that you adopt the resolution with the final tax levy, and there is a second resolution which revises the 2019 budget and establishes the 2020 city budget. And I would answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Robin. I know we've been going over this, I always say this every year, I think, but council has been reviewing this with staff since April, I think, and then really heavy into July, August, and then 1st of September. So we've been through it, but is there any other question now, Councilmember Olson?
Thank you very much, Mayor. As the new person sitting here, I want to speak to the public briefly. You know, I was recently elected, but prior to that, I was able to sit and observe the sitting city council work through the budget process, and availed myself of the opportunity to attend public meetings and really watch the proverbial sausage get made. And one of the things that has always astounded me, and I'm very grateful that Robin included it in her slides this evening, is the median valued home in the city of Cottage Grove in this budget will pay $931 annually in taxes. And we got to see all of the services that they get for that $931. Some people spend more than that on coffee at Caribou. I know you do, Starbucks now, but you know, it is astounding. You get your roads plowed for that. You get your parks maintained. You get your roads swept and cleaned and paved. You have public safety services, you have an ambulance service, you have an outstanding police department and a fantastic fire department at your beck and call should you need them. There are so many services that get provided. Public Works ensures that your water works. When you turn on the sink, it's there and it's clean and you can drink it and you can feed it to your family and feel confident that everyone's going to be healthy. We have people here at City Hall with, you know, advanced degrees in engineering and finance and all sorts of different specialties who look out for all of the citizens of this community and make sure that that they're well taken care of, and that the home in which they live and the community in which they live is managed effectively for $931. That is just amazing to me. So kudos to the staff and the council for the hard work that went into this budget. I know I wasn't part of the council at the time that the initial budget was adopted, but again, just watching the work that was done, I couldn't be more impressed with all of the effort and conversation and analysis that went into it. And this is a budget that I would be proud to vote for this evening. I think you and the team did really great work in ensuring that you maintained a levy that was reasonable and provided for all of the needs of the community, but did so in such a way where when you look at our peer communities throughout the rest of the county, at the per capita tax rate that you pointed out early on in your presentation, we're right there near the bottom. There's tremendous value in what we do here in the city of Cottage Grove with the tax dollars that are provided. And that hasn't changed for as long as I've lived here. And my hat is off to the council and the staff for putting this budget together and, looking forward into 2020, 2021, and making sure that our residents will be well cared for at a reasonable price. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, council? I do know we have one gentleman that wanted to speak on this item, so if you just want to go up to the podium there and just state your name and address for the record. I know you did sign up, so thank you for waiting.
Well, I just want to thank you for letting me speak here tonight for just a few minutes. And excuse me, I do have a little bit of a cough, so I apologize ahead of time. But I do want to say a couple things. I'm a recent resident to Cottage Grove. We bought a home here this last May and moved here actually from Woodbury. And I got to tell you, we love Cottage Grove.
Thank you.
The community is probably the best community around. Even though we're 6 miles away from where we were, it's a day and night difference from Woodbury. And to your credit, Cottage Grove is a great community. And so I am here to speak a little bit about the budget and property taxes in general, because we were looking at our property tax statement, and we do fit in that median home. And so we looked at it, and when we got it, we looked at, wow, we're getting a 10% increase year over year on property taxes. So it kind of caught us off guard compared to the school and the county taxes that they have. So, but I do have to also say that presentation a second ago here with where our dollars are going was very important, and I thought was good. My only concern is, we're going from a 10% increase year over year. Is going forward, are we going to be looking forward to seeing this every year at 10%, these kind of increases? And I granted some of that is the market value of the properties are going up. But what happens where we are going into an election year, if the economy changes with a new president or and new elected offices, what happens then? And so that one of the things I would like to have is hear your considerations of where the county is going to be going or where the community is going to be going. In the long term, are we going to be seeing increased property taxes even if we have a downturn? And that's all I have for concerns. But I do want to thank you for letting me speak tonight. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, first of all, welcome to Cottage Grove. This is God's country down on the south side
It
here.
really
so-
is. It really is.
No, we appreciate having you. To answer some of your questions real quick, I think I can do that, and if staff wants to jump in. I will be honest with you, this year was a little higher than we honestly wanted. I guess I can say that, and I know our staff's kind of shaking their head. Part of the reason it was a little higher this year is because we did have some unexpected debt as relates to some work that we needed to do at the ice arena, which was fairly substantial. Plus, and I don't know where you're living specifically, but the debt to the Ravine Parkway
South Valley, by the
you're out by there? Okay. So that's really the two biggest things, to be honest with you. And then we just obviously were in partnership with the City of Woodbury and the state of Minnesota, the Hero Center. So it's kind of the three things that really bumped it up. But at the same time, to your point, the property values went up. The only thing that I would share with you on the property value side, and I can look to Robin and she can correct me if I'm wrong. Typically when the economy, if heaven forbid if it happens, but if the economy were to take a downturn, we obviously tighten our belts. The city has always done that. But at the same time, the county assessors do not bump that property value up. They're very careful with that. When you look along when we had the recession not too many years ago, everything was flat. We were flat. We were keeping our taxes at zero, literally. In some cases, even a little bit below. We were trying to really hold the line there. And of course, when you do those things to hold the line for our citizens but want to keep the right services, sometimes you have to kind of, in the good times, if you will, try to push that number up to regain some of that momentum. Staff did provide us, even though we're talking specifically about 2020, staff always gives us a look forward to see what 2021 and maybe 2022 is. Now, those are all preliminary, but I can assure you on the preliminary number, it is significantly lower than the number that you're seeing this year. I can share with that, and this was an anomaly year because we always, just like a homeowner does, and I'm sure I can speak for the council here, we don't want these ups and valleys and peaks and drops and that. We want to kind of try to remain as steady as we can, knowing that the growth will continue to happen. But this particular year was a little bit of again, I'll just say it again, it was a little bit of an anomaly, but we expect us to be back to more normal, if there's such a thing, in 2021, I should say 21, 22.
Are those debt obligations going away, or is it just decreasing, or is it like a balloon payment?
It's a little, I guess I'd ask Robin to maybe speak specifically to that, other than I can assure you that part of it has to just do with growth. The fact that we're adding.
I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Yep.
No, it's not a balloon payment, and it's not going away. It's just that once you've kind of bumped it up, even to keep it at that level, that would be a 0% increase on that. So we did look at, I think, somewhere in the 3% range for 2021. And I would say that there was a period of, was it 3 or 4 years, where we did have a 0% increase.
Yeah.
And that was during the really rough years, during the economic downturn. We had to put off some maintenance, we had to put off some capital outlay during that period of time, but the council truly understood what was necessary to help keep people's taxes in line at that point. And then going forward, we haven't really wanted to go much over 3% for a number of years. We just wound up with 3 big, kind of extra mortgage payments, if you will, that, over time too, we will have other debt that will go away. We have certain pavement management debt that we have paid off early in order to make the increase in the debt service a little more palatable. And we might be able to do that here as soon as 2-3 years from now, when we could call some of those bonds that we've issued in the past. So, certainly we're going to always take a look for what is the best and highest rate of return for our dollars, as taxpayers are concerned about where their rate of return is as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin. Councilmember Thiede.
So I agree with the mayor, and he kind of stole a lot of my lines, but, and again, I'm not all that happy with the 7.77%, although we did have to take care of the ice arena and the refrigeration. Unfortunately, that's not something that we were able to continue to put off. The Hero Center, just the timing of that, and doing that, and then, so, I mean, we do watch it, believe me, very, very closely, and sometimes staff gets tired of me in the budget meetings, but at any rate, that said, I also agree with Councilmember Olson in terms of, I still think that Cottage Grove is just one heck of a value, and we continue to be very conscientious about providing all those services. I'm a firm believer in gaining amenities through growth as opposed to through individual tax increases and so forth. So as a principal, I definitely always look to try to get our amenities that way. And then we've have done a good job over the years and in terms of reserves and other things that in preparation for things like downturns and that. So I do have confidence in our staff to make things work and constantly saying, well, are you sure about this? Are you sure we, and so Robin continues to console me and say, yes, I think everything's okay. But believe me, as a principal, we're always looking at, what is the effect on the homeowner? Both from the positive standpoint of what you're gaining and then also, unfortunately, some of those tax increases, and it varies for other different people. So we do take that very seriously.
And the only other thing maybe I'll share, since you brought it up, and it's a great comment, and that is, one of the challenges that we have up here and the staff has too is, for example, I've heard about 80th Street. There's parts of 80th Street that need to be, replaced. There's an intersection down at East Point Douglas and Jamaica. I just saw a recent posting on Facebook about that, and the good news is we're getting the word out there about, okay, that's an $8 million project to fix that entire intersection, that area down there. So we plan capital improvement projects out. So for example, this next year in 2020 with this budget is some pavement management in certain neighborhoods within our community. We do it on a cycle. And then the other one is 80th Street from Jamaica to Keats, or County Road 19, and then all of West Point Douglas from Jamaica to 80th, well, Belden, I guess is what it is. So we balance it, and we hear from some of our citizens. So that is kind of an interesting thing is we all want easy-going roads, but unfortunately, they're expensive. Fortunately or unfortunately, it's expensive, and the only way to really pay for some of that is through levies. And then the only other comment I'll mention about related to going forward beyond 2020 is this next year, there will be a planned referendum for a community center. What effect that'll have, we don't quite know that yet. We're still kind of honing in on the numbers to get a good number for citizens to be aware of if they vote for the referendum, what effect it'll have in your taxes. We'll know more as we get deeper into 2020, but that won't be until 21 or 22, I believe, correct?
Well, if the referendum were to pass, council, obviously can issue debt after that.
Yep.
And the first payments on that or the first levies would be in '22.
That's what I figured. Okay, so it'd be a year later.
Sure.
A good full year probably, so, okay. But thank you for showing up in the kind comments. We do appreciate having you here. Thank you.
If I could make one more
Yes, Robin.
comment. The gentleman spoke about the value of his property increasing significantly year over year. I would call people's attention to the fact that in March, early to mid-March, they should be receiving a letter from the county which shows their property valuation not for 2020, but for the coming tax year of 2021. We do not assess or appraise properties within the city. That is the county's responsibility. And if people receive those notices, that is the one and only time in a year that they can protest the valuation of their property. And I encourage people, look at that notice, make sure that you think the value of your property is appropriate. And if it's not, either come to the open book meeting that'll be held here at City Hall, or call the county and go visit them and let them know that the valuation on your property you believe is not correct. Because that's what your taxes will be based on in the coming year. That's always important. So I apologize.
Good, thank you for bringing that up. Actually, that's a good comment for you. So, all right, any other comments, council? All right, so we have two resolutions before us. Who would like to take the first one?
Mayor, I'll make that first motion to adopt Resolution 2019-136, adopting the tax levy collectible in 2020.
All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Mills.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Dennis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And then we got number 2.
Mayor, I'll move that we adopt Resolution 2019-137, revising the 2019 budget and establishing the 2020 budget for the city.
All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Olson.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Thiede. Any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robin. All right, moving on. 12 is council comments request. I'll start with Councilmember Mills.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to bring up 2 quick things. The first one I'm just going to kind of bring up and draw attention to an event coming up down at the Event Center. Our chef, James, is here, and there is an event coming up on December 28th, the Cracked Barrel Wine Dinner. And I know they've been doing a lot of different events. I know my colleague over here, Councilmember Thiede, has brought up several of those events, but they're doing a wine pairing with a fantastic meal that Chef James will be preparing. And I know I will be enjoying that with some friends of mine, and should be a nice evening out. You can go to the website, I believe, or Facebook, find the event, and you can purchase tickets or a whole table. So some nice events going on down there, so that's exciting to see happen. Could be a great way to kind of use that holiday week and enjoy it with some friends. The other thing I'll bring up, which will kind of segue over here to my other council colleague here, is the wreaths with the holiday train. I was told here earlier this evening that there are still a few more wreaths that can be purchased. It's a $100 donation. You decorate the wreath, you bring it down to the holiday train on Tuesday of next week. And if you are interested in still doing that, they don't have the registration page up, but you can contact the city. If you contact Park and Recreation for sure and talk to Molly, she can get you set up. We can still have a few more donations for those wreaths. And I'm going to pass it on then over here to my Councilmember Steve Dennis.
All right, Mr. Dennis.
All right, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Mills. I do want to thank you for your leadership in getting the council to make a commitment to be involved in doing one of these wreaths. This is a really neat process that goes on, and people may have noticed I have some replica models in front of me here of some of our public safety vehicles. And what we have been doing is compiling some items that we can use to decorate a wreath and have it kind of frame up what we do here as a city. So it should be really cool. The council is going to get together. This is posted as an open meeting. We're going to get together and we're going to put this thing together. Mayor Bailey's wife is doing a nice ribbon for the top. We've got everybody working. You're going to bring some lights.
bringing lights.
Yeah, so this will be a really cool thing. And at the end of this raises money for the Friends in Need food shelf, ultimately where all this money ends up going. It's one of the most worthwhile causes that we have here. And then the other thing which people may have noticed is myself and my other colleague, Mr. Olson, we are dressed the same tonight. And so one of the neat tie-ins with this, we're wearing our shirts from Beyond the Yellow Ribbon of Cottage Grove and surrounding areas. And this is a fantastic group that supports veterans in need, their family members. It's just amazing what these people do. So any of the wreaths that are not spoken for or taken back will be donated to this organization so that they may be given to a veteran or a veteran's family. Someone might be deployed, whatever the cause. This will help to make their Christmas be a little bit brighter. So it's a really good thing. I'm looking forward to it. And again, it's posted as a public meeting. We'll get together to do this.
There you go.
All right. Thank you.
Fantastic. That's it. Councilmember Thiede.
Actually, like you guys have covered or will cover most of the things that I see in here. I see that in January, there's going to be a beer dinner at River Oaks. That sounds good also. Otherwise, there's just so many different activities going on this month, and as a community, encourage people to get out and participate. And as Councilmember Olson and I, we're going to be ringing the bell for Salvation Army over in front of Hy-Vee on Saturday from 4 to 6, and both Lions Clubs in front of Hy-Vee, in front of Walmart and so forth, do a lot of that, and that helps a lot of people. And the food shelf, Stone Soup Thrift Shop, those kind of places really help people in our community. So definitely take a look at if you do have donations that you can make to make it to those. So
Fantastic. All right. Councilmember Olson?
I'm good.
Oh, you're good. All right. So a couple items that I'll mention. One is that I've had a couple of people ask me about this. This year, we're doing, talking about the holidays. We're doing something a little different. We're not actually having a holiday lights contest this year. We're actually doing, getting just people to submit their names and their addresses to get a list going, so that if you want to go around and take a look at all the nicely decorated homes around the city of Cottage Grove, you're welcome to do that. Right now, the final date of getting it is tomorrow, I believe, because today is the 4th, yep. By 4:30 tomorrow. I believe we have over 20 homes that have signed up already, have their addresses on a list, and that way, that list will be published on social media and the city's website. I'm sure council members now will be putting that out there so people can see it and in the paper. But I just want to mention to everybody that will be available. So if you want to take the kids around and the family and go look at holiday lights in the community this time of year, that would be pretty cool. I also want to mention, it is kind of an interesting deal this year. We have, I'll make a little bit of a pitch for both. This coming Sunday, there's actually 2 Santa breakfasts going on. It's just the way the calendar happened this year, I guess. One is a Santa brunch, which is down at the event center at River Oaks. That is from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. You do need reservations for that, so please call. There is some availability there. And I also mentioned at the same time, the Lions have their Santa breakfast at the VFW. So there are 2 different events going on, so each of them have their own merit, if you will. Both of them are excellent. Typically, I get to go to both, whether on different weekends, but unfortunately, this case, it's not going to work. But the point of the matter is, please stop by and check out one of these locations. And then, as was mentioned a little bit earlier with the Festival of the Wreaths, this coming Tuesday, the 10th, we will have the holiday train stopping here in Cottage Grove, down on West Point Douglas near the Youth Service Bureau. There will be events and music and the Festival of Wreaths. All the wreaths will be put in an area and lit, so you can see them. Last year was gorgeous. It was very, very nice, which obviously the council put together a wreath last year, and we're doing it again this year, which is awesome. So I just wanted to mention to the public, this, if you haven't been down there, but even if you have, it changes every year. The music's different. I encourage you to come and join. I know it sounds like it's gonna be cold. But the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of people there. It'll be warm. When the music's going and you're dancing and such, you'll warm up. And hopefully there'll be some warming tents, it sounds like.
for gosh sakes, we're Minnesotans. Come
Yes, yeah, there you go. And then one other item I did want to mention, just because since he's here, the entire council here had the opportunity, we had the opportunity to attend a dinner called Friendsgiving down at River Oaks there. And James, our chef, I just want to say amazing, amazing job. So very excited, and the food was, and I know we're all kind of going, oh my goodness, it was really, really good. So I would just tell the public, once they do this again next year, we can keep getting bigger. Every year it gets to be bigger and bigger, but it is kind of cool though, because I do see some of the same families coming back year after year, or groups of people coming back, because I recognize some of them there that day. We had a very large group, which was all right. That was awesome. But the food was amazing. So I would just encourage everybody to check out what's going on in your local community, whether it's looking back now towards Friendsgiving or what's going forward here. There's a lot of events during the holiday season to enjoy time with your family and friends. So with that, I think that was it for me. Any other comments or requests? All right, next on our agenda is a workshop, which is open to the public. The workshop, we have one this evening, is going to be regarding personal policy discussions. It was something that we tabled from the last council meeting to have a little bit more discussion. 14 is workshop closed to the public. There is none this evening. So we won't be adjourning in here. We'll be going to the conference room at this point. So I look forward to seeing everybody at the holiday train next Tuesday. All right, thank you.